This is Sports Inside and Out. Legends of Sports, the voice of legends of sports. When legends speak, people listen.
Hello, everyone. I'm Charlie Neal, and welcome to Sports Inside and Out, Black Legends of Sports, powered by StreamYard.com and presented by CIAASportsbook.com. Coach Charles Hatcher is the executive producer. You know, when you talk about legends, we recently lost a real legend, not just on the hardwood, but in life. I'm talking about none other than Basketball Hall of Famer Sam Jones. And joining us today to talk about him, Charlie Scott. Of course, Charlie was the first Black scholarship athlete at the University of North Carolina and a former NBA great. Also joining us today, Wali Jones, the former Villanova and NBA guard who played against Sam in the NBA, and CBS sportscaster and host of the NFL Today, James Brown. Welcome, gentlemen. Happy New Year. It's
good to be here.
It's a shame we have to meet to talk about something that's tragic, but also we're celebrating the life of Sam Jones. You know, he passed away on December 30th, 2021, at the age of 88. I've known Sam for over 50 years. I knew him as a player. I knew him as a coach. I knew him as a teacher. I knew him as a fellow broadcaster. I also knew him as a friend. And he was born in Wilmington, North Carolina, went to Laurinburg Institute before matriculating to North Carolina College, was now known as North Carolina Central, where he played for another legend, the late John McClendon. Charlie Scott, I'll start with you. You knew Sam. How did that relationship start with him?
Well, really, I met Sam through Laurinburg Institute. I went to Laurinburg as a sophomore, coming from New York City, and at that time, Mr. McDuffie, who was the principal of the school, he kept trying to entice me to want to go further in school. Coming from New York City, all I wanted to do was play basketball and graduate from high school and be the best guy in my block. But Mr. McDuffie used to always use Sam as an example to me of someone who had graduated from Laurinburg, went to North Carolina Central at that time, and then was playing in the NBA. Those dreams were never dreams I would have had it not been for Sam Jones. When Mr. McDuffie introduced me to Sam, and this is a funny story because the first time I met Sam Jones was 1965, and the Boston Celtics were playing a exhibition game in Charlotte, North Carolina, against the Golden State. At that time, it was the Philadelphia Warriors, and I had an opportunity. First, it was the first pro basketball game I've ever gone to in my life. And after the game, Mr. McDuffie had told me he was going to take me over to meet Sam Jones. And for a young man who had never met an athlete, a professional athlete in his life, and here I was getting an opportunity to meet a Boston Celtic, and at this time, a great Boston Celtic, Sam Jones. I was very enthused and very anxious to meet him. And we went over to meet him, and Mr. McDuffie introduced Sam to me and said, "Sam, I want you to meet this young man here, Charlie Scott. I think he has a great future in basketball. I think he's going to go a long way if he put his mind to it." And I put my hand out to get ready to shake the hand of a great Sam Jones. And the thing that Sam did, he handed me $1 and said, "Kid, go get me some popcorn." So from that point on, and I always remind him every time I saw him, how he deflated a young man's ego at the first introduction of all time.
He wanted you to be a gopher.
With Sam, you know. So, I mean, and of course, you know, after that, you know, I got to know him. And really, he became kind of a confidant for me because my father had died. My father was an alcoholic, and he died when I was 14. So Mr. McDuffie literally kept me at Laurinburg. And Sam Jones literally paid for me to stay at Laurinburg all those years I was there. So for 3 years, Sam Jones paid my tuition at Laurinburg. So I am always indebted to him. He has always been my mentor. He has always been someone I considered, you know, to be the person that I would want to be like. And to have the privilege to have played for the Celtics like Sam Jones, and also to win a championship like Sam Jones, those were the highlights of my life, and really the correlation and the thing that really connected me so closely to Sam.
Wally, you got a chance to play against him in the NBA. What are your memories of him?
Well, one being historical in reference to the historical black colleges and Black History Month coming up. I was 15 when I went to A&T to visit my brother playing with Al Addles. And they talked a great deal about Sam Jones. And then after hearing about this great player that was drafted, one of the top players drafted out of college, the first African-American to be drafted on that level, I just followed him. Then when I went to Villanova, I was actually a fan of the Boston Celtics. And I told Jack Kraft, could we wear black sneaks? And that was the black Converses that the Boston Celtics. I was just an admirer of the way they played. In reference to competition, I got to tell you what's interesting about the whole league at 16 teams, that when we defeated the Boston Celtics after them winning 8 championships in a row, I cannot tell you how many guys and teams contacted us to tell us thank you. Yeah, we're so glad somebody beat this dynasty. It was a pleasure meeting with Sam, and it goes back to a lot. Of course, Charlie, I got to even mention this, the fact that we went to Villanova the same time.
Right.
And it was very interesting about that campus life at that time, because that weren't that many African Americans on Villanova's campus.
Right.
It was all male. It was, I had to wear a coat and tie to class, coat and tie to eat. So it's a lot of things that came in my life as a young man at the educational point. But one of the things that Sam did for me after basketball was the connection with Coach Hatcher and Sam Jones on broadcasting, because I got into broadcast because of Sam Jones and Chuck Hatcher. One of the other very important things in my life was Operation First Response, Wounded Warrior programs. I actually traveled around the country with Sam Jones, Amar Green of the Phoenix Suns, visiting veteran hospitals and speaking in high schools for the recruitment of young people for the Army. So it's just a close contact with him as a friend. He taught me so much after basketball, because when we competed against Boston, everybody thought we hated the Boston Celtics. Even the friendships that Russell and Will Chamberlain had, I had a friendship with Sam Jones, because everybody would ask me, you related to Casey or Sam? It was a connection in our community as family.
Sure. Right.
And he always gave me that feeling whenever I saw him at the CIAA, the MEAC, of warmth, of family warmth. And a man that represented more than just basketball, but a human being that really touched many, many lives, many lives. In education, Lamar Green talked about him when he coached at New Orleans, his friendship. Lamar Green was with him approximately a month before he passed away. So those memories are some great memories of a great competitor, but also a great man.
James Brown, your relationship, and what do you remember most? And Sam was a local guy in the DC metropolitan area. He lived in Silver Spring after he left playing with the Celtics, coached at the University of District Columbia, taught school. Talk about your remembrance of him.
So, Charlie, my remembrances would be different than those of Charlie Scott and Wali Jones for sure, in that I knew him more as a person. Clearly, I knew who he was as a basketball player. I was blessed to go to school up in the New England area. So, of course, the Celtics we knew all too well. Some of the Celtics players even came over to the at Harvard, we didn't have a stadium like Charlie Scott was accustomed to down at North Carolina Chapel Hill. Our deal was up on the 4th floor, Charlie Neal, what was called the Indoor Athletic Building. But we had a powerhouse collection of talent that never really got to take off well for any number of reasons. But the fact of the matter was Sam Jones, like Casey Jones, who was our coach my sophomore year in college, our best year, by the way, was representative of class, intelligence, and just being a gentleman who welcomed anybody who sought him out for whether it was advice or just getting to know him. That's the man that I knew. So I got to know him as a person. And Charlie Neal, when in D.C., I was working at my high school coach's camp, Morgan Wooten, who was, again, a legend in high school basketball and the first coach inducted into the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame expressly for what he did at the high school level. Obviously, the ultimate was when that team, I was in the 8th grade listening to the game on radio when the guys at DeMatha, Sid Catlett, Bob Whitmore, Bernard Williams, that group, a talented group of guys, beat then Luau Cinder of Power Memorial, snapping their 71-game win streak that they did at Cole Fieldhouse. So that really put high school basketball in a very significant way on the map because of Kareem. But Sam would come over, he would offer advice. We could talk to him. I would see him at my high school basketball camps, basketball camp in D.C. because Red Auerbach, God bless him, he was there playing tennis on the tennis court at the facility where the basketball camp was. So Sam was a pretty frequent visitor over there playing tennis with Red Auerbach. But again, the thing I remember most vividly is how wonderful a guy he is. I used to love hearing him regale us with stories about Bill Russell. As a matter of fact, I got a chance to do an event with the big fella, as they all called him, in New England, and they had a bunch of sports stars from there, and Bill Russell was there. And I remember Coach Bill Russell, well, he was coach too, telling us the story about how he had a small circle of friends, and that was a tight-knit circle, and people just didn't get to hang out with them and break into that circle. So trying to be a good host and interviewer, I said, well, Mr. Russell, suppose you met somebody that you really liked and wanted to bring into that circle. And he stopped and paused for about 10 seconds. And I said, well, what would you do? He said, well, if I wanted to invite him into that circle, somebody in that circle would just have to go because I didn't have a real tight circle. So that was Bill Russell. And Sam had the same kind of dry wit and humor, even with Casey Jones. So those were remarkable players. And Wally could speak to it a whole lot better than me, but they were just class acts, Charlie.
Well, you know, it's interesting because we all probably have some stories about Sam. I got a chance to travel around with Sam doing games. Every year during the CIAA tournament, they would have an old timers game, and from players who had played in the CIAA, and Sam would come back and play, and I would referee the old timers game. I gave him a technical foul. I gave him a tech foul and tossed him from a game once. And this is, he's saying, how can you toss me, Sam Jones, from an old timers game? But the great story that I always remember when we traveled around, Sam, for those who knew him, he could hold on to $1 forever. He wasn't gonna spend any money. Am I right, Charlie?
No, he was the dime.
He wouldn't go spend $1. So we would go to do a game, let's say, and this is one game, one school I remember specifically. But each school we would go to, we would go to the shoot around, watch the teams practice before the game, and I would say to the coach, I want your best shooter to play Sam in a game of horse. Now, Sam is 60 years old. I mean, at this time, And I said, if he beats Sam, I will give them $50. In all the years that Sam and I traveled around, I spent $50 one time. One time. And he swears that I shouldn't have spent it then, that he actually beat the kid. It was down at Dillon University. I gave $150 away to one kid out of all the schools that we traveled and went around to do the games. Sam was a competitor in everything he did. He loved to play tennis. He loved to play golf. Yes. If he was playing cards, whatever, you name it, he was a great competitor. JB, do you have any stories?
Well, you know what? And this is probably going to play more to Charlie Scott and Wali Jones to comment on. Charlie, Neal, I have never seen someone, and maybe Wali did going back further than me with the history, who was so proficient in shooting that bank shot from the wings. And I mean, I don't know
Yes.
whether there's a story about how it came, and maybe Wally and Charlie can speak to it.
I can tell you how the story came
the
about.
fact of the matter is, if he had a big guy coming at him, as opposed to trying to shoot over his hand, he would hit the bank shot with proficiency, and the tougher the game got, the cooler and more effective and efficient he was.
Yes.
That blew my mind. But go ahead, Wally, Charlie, whoever.
No, go ahead, Charlie.
Well, this is what it was. Sam Jones went to Lauenburg Institute.
Mm-hmm.
When I went down there was an old gym that they used to play in. And what they said was that there was a heater on one side of the gym. And Sam said when he felt that heater on his back, that's where he knew to shoot the jump shot for the backboard from. That's how he started shooting the backboard jump shot. There was a heater in the gym that when the heater hit his back, he knew that's where he should bank the back. That's where he shot his bank shot from. And that's how Sam Jones began shooting the bank shot.
I never heard that story. That's awesome.
You know what?
Well, I have another story for you. Because of the old parquet floor, it was dead everywhere. They had dead spots. Mm-hmm. Sam had a spot. He had a marked spot where he shot that bank shot. But there were so many dead spots on there. I have to say about Clutch. When we talk about basketball players shooting, he was one of the clutch players ever to play professional basketball. Mm-hmm. When they needed a shot, Sam Jones was the guy to take that shot.
No question. Hey, Charlie Neal, to Wali Jones and Charlie Scott's point, he talked about that parquet floor because we played over there in college in what they called the Bean Pot Tournament as well, too, which originally started with the hockey players because hockey is so big, of course, in New England. Casey Jones, obviously Sam's teammate, was such a stellar defensive player, and he knew for those opponents who were unaware of where the dead spots on the floor, because I've seen this.
That's right.
He would steer them over to that dead spot on the floor, and when that ball didn't bounce back up to the height that it should have, Sam Jones stole that ball every time. They finally got hip to that, but they knew where those dead spots were, and they worked it to their advantage. They were absolutely a smart team. And again, Brother Scott and Jones can probably comment on this, but Red Auerbach, to his credit, he knew which players to have in there because the way he incentivized them from a contractual standpoint, because Red did everything. He said, this is where I learned that he said, you need to get inside of the statistics. Most fans would just see, oh, Charlie Scott scored 35 or Wali Jones dished out this many assists. Red always said, no, let me get inside of the stats. Somebody might be a good steal artist, but I want to know at what point in the game that those steals come, because Casey Jones was excellent at that. Both of the guys talked about how clutch a shooter he was. Sam knew when to deliver, and it was always money. So he put together a collection and a team that was flat out awesome. And then for Bill Russell, when Red Auerbach was retiring and made Bill Russell the player coach, I remember asking Coach Auerbach, I said, how is it that you decided that Russell, would get the job? And he said, who better to motivate Bill Russell than Bill Russell? And Russell knew how clutch both Sam and Casey were and the others to him. But anyway, they can comment on that as well, too.
Well, you talk about, of course, we all know he went into the Basketball Hall of Fame in 1984 up in Springfield, Mass. Also inducted into the NAIA Basketball Hall of Fame back in 1962. And 7 years after that, he was the first African-American inducted into the North Carolina Sports Hall of Fame. You talked about his bank shot, and it was his calling card. 10 NBA titles, included 8 straight NBA titles with the Celtics. 12 seasons he played, over 15,000 points, over 2,200 assists, had over 4,300 rebounds. Charlie Scott, was it any part of Sam's game that you took and tried to make it part of yours?
Well, Sam was so smooth. I mean, that's the thing about it. Sam was so smooth. I was I was a guy of speed. Sam was a ballet dancer.
Yes,
Sam
yes.
never moved too fast. Sam was never moving too fast. Any move Sam made, was a move that had significance to it. I might make 3 or 4 moves to get a shot off. Sam said, "You don't wasted 3 or 4 minutes just to get that shot off. You just made one move and that was it." See, I mean, and like you said, and the thing that really, and people didn't know this. One thing that really bothers Sam is that people never realize. They always talk about the tandem of Cousy and Russell, but Cousy and Russell won 8 championships together. Sam Jones and Russell won 10 championships together.
Right.
People
Yes.
never made significance of that. They always used to say, "Oh, Cousy and Russell," and Russ would always tell you too. Cousy was there a long time before him and had no championships.
Right.
So people really sometimes underestimated the significance of Sam Jones on that team. Because he played with other great players and he was such a quiet player. He did not, except when he, got the stool for Wilt, everybody didn't know who he was until that time because he just went around his job, did it professionally, never spoke, never said anything, but you knew that when the time came to win, like he used to tell me, there was one play the Celtics ran called the 2 play. And that play was just for him to shoot. And he said every time a clutch shot had to be made, they called the play the 2 play. Everybody knew it was going to, but couldn't stop it. And Wali probably was somebody that had to deal with that more than anyone else.
Yes, I did.
Did you have to guard him at all, Wally?
Yeah. Did you, John? I had to guard him all the time, Charlie. But one thing that's very significant in reference to, it was tough. In reference to significance of historical Black colleges, one of the reasons why I enjoyed their team, their style of play, the team play. But one significant thing happened when we had 10 African Americans starting at the same time on the championship finals. Not a final, semifinal, because we later beat the Golden State Warriors for the world championship. But it was significant to me because I admired that they were able to put 5 African Americans on the floor. And then when we finally got to put 5 African Americans, it was a historical point of view to actually have 5 African Americans in a semifinal game. I'm just proud of that. There's some other significant things that happened in Black history that I learned when I was 15 going to Greensboro. I never experienced a white water fountain or sit in a balcony or have to eat in the kitchen. And what's significant to my brother now, Annals, was they alerted us to how they were part of the sit-ins.
Right.
North Carolina Central, where Sam was, he was one of the top players during that time. But it was so significant for me as a 15-year-old to see what they did to the sit-ins encounters. It's very, very. It was just significant in my life to actually not to experience the prejudice and then to go down south when I was 15 and to see what they went through to play basketball. They had some of the top ball players in the history of college because most of the Black players didn't go to Memphis or North Carolina. One of the things that Billy Cunningham said from New York, he when he went to college before Charlie, well, where are the brothers? But that's what's significant to me when I went to see. I had never seen ball players play as fast and skilled and athletic when I was 15 years old when I saw A&T play.
That's great. I mean, you talk about the impact that not only HBCUs, and you got to remember, Red Auerbach took Sam, had never seen him play. He took him on a recommendation from someone to bring him to the Celtics. You know that to be a fact, right, Charlie?
Yeah. That's true. I think Coach McClendon had a lot to do with it also.
Well, of course, John McClendon, of course, had a lot to do with it because he was well respected. He was a disciple of James Naismith, the founder of the game of basketball. So, when you look back and some of the great names, when we talk about Sam, when we talk about the CIAA, And I mean, even what's happened this past year with two former CIAA players going into the Basketball Hall of Fame, and Bobby Dandridge and the kid from Virginia Union, uh,
Ben Wallace.
Ben Wallace. Yes, yeah. So I mean, they're the only thing that, and we're getting. I don't want to get off the subject of Sam, but the one thing that we've noticed, the last player from an HBCU to be drafted was Kyle O'Quinn from Norfolk State, who went to the Orlando Magic, and now he's not even playing in the league; he's playing overseas. But he played with Orlando. He played with the Knicks for a little while. But Sam, you know, the stories go on and on and on, and I'm sure if you have anything else you want to add. First of all, let me bring in our executive producer real quick, Charlie Hatcher. I know he has some things that he wants to say and about Sam Jones and what he's meant to him. Coach.
All right. Thanks a lot for having you on, man. I'm very happy to be part of the Sports Inside and Out Black Legends family. And of course, Wali's the backbone of it, and thank God for the legend Charlie Neal. And what can I say about you, JB? God bless you very, very strongly to be where you're going, and it's no telling what the ceiling is, if it is, or your talent and what you got to offer to mankind, man. I thank you for your friendship and your support. But with Sam, man, was, you know, Sam was a veteran. I was a veteran. And Sam was in there. You know, of course, he came in the Army. He was at Fort Hood. And, of course, he came in. And for my first Olympic trial, I was selected with Mike Barrett after I left the service during the '68 Olympics. And Charlie, and, of course, JoJo White. I wasn't able to get into Colorado Springs, but at least I was on the first cut of the Olympic Games. And, of course, Sam was helping me, as well as a young man named Mike Barrett, who did. But Sam was always there, as Wali said, that when we were running it was just after my stepson, Dominique Wilkins, decided to retire. And Wali, of course, and I had the privilege of touring the country with the Shoot for the Star program that he created there in Miami, man. And I mean, I had Saturday All-Star games, every Oscar we were broadcasting to the troops and tying in to overseas, to Iraq and Kuwait and those places. And everybody loved Sam because he always wanted to let them know that he was a veteran first. Sam took a strong interest in the humanitarian thing, and we were the first group of ball players that was actually invited and did a presentation show in the Pentagon. Top secret. No other ball players had been in that area that we were. Wally was with us, and Sam and Bob Beeman were very, very gracious in the time they sent to the Wounded Warriors. And it just carried on for the NCAA tournament. We're out there with, I think it was Battelle, and did the Final Fours out there in Detroit. And every time we came around, we were getting into something else. But he was very supportive. He was very cognizant of what I went through in the integration years, being the first African American to play for a major white institute in the South. And he was right there with the knowledge of everything I did when I was working and called by Martin Luther King and Robert Athenick and John Lowry to try to create this hub thing. And Sam was always calling one way or another when we finally got it close to it. And of course, Wali just took it to another level. But I really appreciate, man, the things that you A-class Zenith career builders are on, man. And it does good to be able to talk about and celebrate the life of Sam Jones. And what can I say about Charlie? When I had a first chance to come in after JB was leaving out, Kurt Simmons, of course, God bless his soul, told me to tell you hello, Jay. And, you know, they helped captivate and create something for me to be able to do. And then I picked up Wali. And next thing we know, Sam was actually one of the founders of Sports Inside and Out, Legends of Sports. And a lot of people didn't know that. But, you know, we went a long ways and we have so much to do. Telling the story telling the stories of the black legends that helped make the game of professional sports. And we're, of course, we go at basketball more. But man, this is the only opportunity that we can celebrate the lives of these brethren who helped make the professional game what it is today. And when I was drafted in the ABA, this was a dream come true with no money. But now these kids are playing ABA type basketball and getting the revenue they should, but they're not looking back at what helped get there. We made a living playing a child's game, and man, it don't look fun no more. And the guys aren't doing really what they can to really make an impact of a legacy for them. And now, hopefully, we'll be able to continue to give them a platform that they can be a part in their own legacy, but also helping those kids that are coming behind pass it back. And I think that's basically what it is. But I'm very, very thankful, very, very happy for the team that has been cultivated, of course, by Wali with the Wali Wonder Show. And Charlie, you know what I think about you, big timer. Charlie Scott, you're always like a brother that was pretty close to help making our whole All-Star run for so many years. And I really appreciate you as that, man. And that's about all I can say, man. But look forward to being with all of you guys again. And don't forget, Charlie, you got a special show coming out here pretty soon that you did with Lefty Drizel. I hope that turns out well. And, of course, JB, I'll keep you abreast.
Thank you, Coach. As we wrap things up real quickly, I'm going to go down through each one of you, Charlie, JB, Wali. Final thoughts. Start with you, Charlie.
Well, like I said, Sam, I've known Sam for over 50 years, and he has always he was someone that I could look up to and someone that I was always proud to call my mentor.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to miss him. But again, I know that, part of my life and where I have gone and the things that I have accomplished, he has so much to do with, and I'm so proud to be able to call him the person that I admire most growing up, especially at the time when I was going to Lombard.
Thank you. Wali?
Well, I think a tremendous role model for me. I miss talking to him monthly. We would call each other. And one of the things that's significant in Sam Jones is that they'd always ask me, are you related? Well, I am. He is my brother, just like Casey. Those guys are two wonderful men that really helped mold me and set a example of what I wanted to become when I got into the NBA. God bless Sam and Casey.
JB?
Hey, Charlie, and I'll do my best to be succinct here as well, too. Sam Jones, first and foremost, to me, typified the kind of excellence and comportment, if you will, during a very difficult time. Look, Boston was not the easiest place to play in, and I'm so glad that the story came out in terms of in no way disrespecting, Bob Cousy, but Sam Jones, if you look at what he did, and the guys who are gathered here today, Coach Hatcher, Charlie Scott, and Wali Jones can speak to that. And let me speak just quickly about Wali as well, too, because I remember Red Auerbach saying this, which made perfect sense. I did an interview with him on the radio way back in the day, and I was asking him a question about the players of the day because everybody was screaming and hollering about how big Shaquille O'Neal changed the game. And I had the nerve to ask Coach Auerbach, I said, how do you think Bill Russell would handle Shaquille O'Neal today? And this speaks back to the excellence of Sam, who never bragged about himself. He just delivered on the court, on the court. Red Auerbach, I could hear him smoking his cigar, and he called me Brownie. He said, Brownie, you got the question all wrong. It's not how Russell would handle Shaquille O'Neal. Took a big draft off his cigar. He said, the question is, how would Shaquille O'Neal handle Bill Russell? Next question. So the point that he was making, because everybody likes to talk about the players of today that they see versus those of yesteryear who, like Charlie, like Wali, and even as Coach Hatcher talked about going into the ABA. Hey, Charlie Neal, Red made the point a great player in any era could play in any era. So let's not get it twisted in talking about today's guys and give them all the credit in the world. But the players that you have here who are representative of what the Sam Jones and others did back in the day, they take a backseat to no one. And shame on me as I'm listening to you guys, and Coach Hatcher was basically trying to encourage me, Charlie, that we ought to do something. Oh, by the way, Charlie Neal, the man with the dulcet tones, the silky voice, who did everything as the example of what excellence is like in terms of being a play-by-play and a host and multi-talented. Thank you guys for having me here, and shame on me if I don't do a better job of trying to showcase the excellence that you guys represent and those players of yesteryear. And Coach Hatcher, I look forward to getting involved and try to make that happen.
Well, praise the Lord. And
I'm saying, look,
Wally's got
hey, y'all know I'm an ordained minister too, so your boy can preach a little bit of time, but just help
Yeah.
Go ahead, Charlie Neal.
All right, hey, Charlie, let them know that we do have Wali Jones' story coming up from Philadelphia.
Okay,
Awesome.
well, we definitely will be looking forward to it. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Charlie Scott, Wali Jones, James Brown, and our executive producer, Coach Charlie Hatcher. As today we remember Sam Jones, not only a friend and a competitor, but he carried himself with dignity and class both on and off the court. Thank you everyone for joining us today, right here on Sports Inside and Out, Black Sports Legend. I'm Charlie Neal.